Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am creating a love themed card using an older stamp set called Love to My Gnomies. I don't know about you, but I got this one last year and I only featured one of the images. There are only 2 or 3, but I only featured one, the other gnome. It's so adorable and I haven't used it except for that one card that I made. And it's a shame. And for now, one of my New Year's resolutions was to give more attention to my older sets, so I am trying to do that. So far I'm still managing that, but with all the new releases and such, it will get harder and harder to give them the attention they deserve. But I'm already glad that I can feature another card with one of my older sets. Now today's card, as most of the time, is a clean and simple card, but truly today it is. There is only one image, there is one sentiment, there is a stencil, a stenciled area on my card where I will only be featuring really the pop of color. The colors are the same. It's one of those cards, and it might scare you to create it, but it is a winner for sure. And so this is a love themed card. This gnome is holding a big heart, so it was just the logical choice for me to take the hard Extraordinaire stencil and to create my background with it. So that's what I'm going to do. I also try to mimic the same kind of red that I used with my Copics on the image, just to let it all tie in together and have it all the same and some fun with it. So that's what I did. I also have matching dies for this image, so I'm just coloring it on a scrap piece of Transotype perfect coloring paper. I will die cut it and position it correctly on my card. If you don't have the matching dies, you can definitely remake this card. Just already prep ahead, stamp it out, make a mask, create your background on top, make sure that your background worked out, remove your mask and then color it in, and it will be just the same, but just without the dimension that I'm going to add later on with my thin foam squares. To have a tiny bit of shadow on the white areas like the beard and then the other stripes on the hat, I just used a W2 and W0 marker to help me really softly adding a bit of shadow here and there. And then the shoes, I will add a tiny bit of brown, but just a 2 marker combination, because it's really enough. If you have tiny areas like this, you can add multiple markers in your combination and more than 2, but I mean 2 is just enough, just enough. So I'm going to take the matching dies and then I will continue with the background. For the background, as I said, I'm using the hard Extraordinaire stencil. You have the hard and you have like the window hard. I'm going to use the window hard. You can also do the other way around. And then I created an A2 size panel using the basic rectangles from Mom Elephant, which is my basic rectangle that I have in my craft room, but you can use any you want. Just to keep my panel in place, I am just using some purple tape, and I will also keep the stencil in place with some purple tape. Now for the ink blending, I'm using some distress inks. The ones that I'm using today are aged Mahogany, Candied Apple and Festive Berries. I thought, seeing those caps, that it would work nicely to mimic that heart that I have, and I'm actually really pleased with the end result. So I took my blending brushes here and I'm just going to fill up that heart. I'm starting with my lightest color, making sure that I fill up that heart, and then I will add those darker colors to create my shadows. And you can go back and forth between your not your markers, but your inks if you want to. It's not always needed, but there are definitely times where I think I should go back a tiny bit just to fix things or to get the transition right. But that is my heart. Don't you think that it looks kind of like the heart I colored in? I mean, I need to keep this specific combination in mind. Okay, so I decided to heat set my panel a tiny bit. These inks are really juicy. They are distress inks, so it doesn't stay wet so long. But I had like this tiny boo-boo, like it went a tiny bit outside of the edges, and I wanted to use my white jelly roll pen. If you do that when the ink is still wet, it will just turn pink. So I just needed to wait a tiny bit. Next, I decided upon the placement of the gnome as well as the sentiment. I'm using the sentiment from the stamp set, but before adding that, I'm going to splatter a tiny bit on this panel. You can keep it as is, and I actually also do love the hard panel just like this. Add this one on your card base, and you can give it. It's perfect. I mean, but I already had my gnome, so I needed some more. You could leave it as I used it and use it on a card. You could leave it and add the gnome as I intended to. Or if you think it's just a tiny bit too wide or you need a tiny bit more interest, you can add some splatters like I did. I used one of the distress inks that I used for the heart so that it would match with the red that I already had. And then I took some white gouache as well to splatter a tiny bit on the heart to give some more interest. You don't need to, but this is also a way for you if you are a bit afraid of all of the white areas on clean and simple cards. You can definitely splatter your color around and have a bit of fun with that so that it is less white. But that's all up to you. I don't do this often, but I do love it. Whenever I see it, I enjoy adding it to this card as well. So to create a tiny bit of dimension, I am adding thin foam squares behind my gnome, and then I'm going to add this on top of the panel. I actually realized that I had this stamp set laying around when I watched Romeo and Juliet, like the movie thing. I watched it when I was a teenager in the cinema, and now I have Disney Plus at home. I really love Disney and Marvel and all those things. So I got Disney Plus, and I was actually looking for something to fill up the time, because when I am tired but I cannot go yet to sleep, I tend to watch TV just until my eyes are also really tired. And so I watched, and I was like, oh, I saw it when I was like a teenager, so it's 10 years ago. I don't know when it was released, but when it was released, and it has been a while. So I enjoyed watching it again, and I realized I had this gnome stamp set, so I'm really glad to have seen the movie, to have recalled this stamp set, and to have created this card. I hope that I could inspire you with this card. Have some fun with your older stamp sets, create some love themed cards. Thank you so much for being here. I wish you all an incredible day, and I'll be back soon with some new crafty inspiration. Bye!